high-speed rail networks. And of course, the President has proposed an additional $1 billion per year in annual appropriations, and with the action that the House took last week, it looks like that figure may get bumped up possibly as high as another $4 billion. They're proposing $3 billion over what the President has requested, and based on Senator Durbin's comments this morning, he says the Senate intends to bump it up. So I don't know if $4 billion is going to be the figure, but it sounds like it's going to be more than one. At F.R.A., Mark's staff is very, very busy reviewing some 278 pre-applications that we received 2 weeks ago from 40 states and the District of Columbia, totaling $102 billion, which is about, 11, 12, almost 13 times more the amount provided for under the Recovery Act. So there's just no question of what demand is simmering out there. What we plan to do at F.R.A. is we've divided the country up into regions. We've put together teams. There's 4 regions. We've put together teams now that are going out and meeting with those applicants, meeting with the state DOTs. Again, we can't tell them what to do with their application, but certainly we can offer general guidance. We can help them critique their own pre-applications, and which will allow them to kind of strengthen their final submittals for when they come in to us by August 24th. And the successful projects are the ones that are going to be based upon strong and sustainable partnerships, backed with sound financial management capabilities, and be realistically ready to ramp up according to where they are in their own development stage. The bottom line is we know, especially here at the beginning, the projects we select are the ones that are going to have to be successful. If we want this project to be something that's going to be sustainable long-term over the decades, like construction of the interstate highway system was, we have to make sure that here in the beginning we select the very best projects that have the highest degree of success, because we fumble the ball now, there won't be it tomorrow. Frankly, F.R.A. is in the spotlight as never before. And like I said, we know the pressure's on us that we have to get this done right. And I think what it does for the freight industry, frankly, it brings the entire issue of rail into the spotlight like never before, into the public eye. And there is a role for freight. Again, when we're talking about moving goods, not just people, when we're talking about moving goods, it's the most efficient way over long distances, particularly for bulk items. What we need to achieve is a passenger rail network that will connect people across America and, as the President says, signal a new beginning, a new chapter in the nation's public transportation system. It's what I call the rail renaissance in America, and what we're looking to do is to more fully integrate that rail network. And I think that, it's funny, you go over to Europe, they are so envious of our freight rail network, and there's no question that our freight rail network is recognized as the best in the world. And so together, for both freight and passenger, we need to achieve greater interconnectivity, reduce fuel consumption, traffic congestion, and air pollution. Think about this, all of you in this room, 20 years from now, we have the opportunity to tell our children or our grandchildren that we played a role in transforming transportation for the United States of America and playing a hands-on role in developing high-speed rail. And I know certainly it's something that I am going to be proud of, and I'm sure you will too. It's a historic time for all of us because the President has taken such a keen interest in creating a rail system that will revolutionize the way Americans travel. The first president to pay any attention to rail since Abraham Lincoln. That's true. It's true. And just as Lincoln revolutionized the movement of goods and people across the nation with the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, we're facing that same type of revolution right now. I think everybody here knows what past presidents have tried to do, or maybe I should say didn't do, with Amtrak and commuter rail. And in President Obama, we have a true friend that has the foresight and the vision to realize the true potential of passenger rail. Our plan is to integrate corridors of 100 to 600 miles with the rest of our transportation network and bring rail into the 21st century. The corridors will be built on a regional basis, so one day millions of Americans will have seamless access to airports and transit stations and create livable communities and inspire new development. In addition, we clearly intend to upgrade the reliability, frequency, and service of our existing intercity routes. As I mentioned earlier, the first installment for this effort already came in the form of $1.3 billion in Recovery Act funds for Amtrak for infrastructure repair. And if you're out and about, you can already see the visible signs at different rail stations that are being upgraded and in refurbished rolling stock that's now rolling out. And there's going to be more to come. So I ask all of you here to work with us, work with Congress, the states, and all stakeholders to ensure continued funding for these crucially important investments and to make sure that passenger rail is part of the solution for future job creation and economic growth. I think we know that American workers have the knowledge, the expertise, and wherewithal to help successfully realize this grand vision that we're painting. But I'd be remiss by failing to mention the role that the private sector can play in achieving it. I think there is a consensus that high-speed and expanded intercity passenger rail must involve the private sector. And this can take many forms of investment and, in all likelihood, public-private partnerships. As the overall program advances, I think this will become much clearer to everyone. You know, we've got an interstate highway system which has long been the envy of the world, but when it's come to high-speed rail, we've had to look elsewhere for success. Now, I was fortunate to be able to join Secretary LaHood over in Europe about my second week on the job back in May, and we toured the TGV system in Paris, or in France, and the AVE system in Spain. And I particularly like to use the AVE system, the Spanish example, when I talk about our mission here in the United States. You know, the French have been at this a long time, better than 30 years, but in the case of Spain, they didn't start until 17 years ago, until 1992, when they constructed their first line. And according to their figures, next year they'll have more high-speed rail miles than any nation in Europe, and second in the world to only Japan. And so it's been a very, very rapid build-up in Spain. The other thing that I find interesting about their approach, if you talk to them, you know, when the first line was constructed, you know, we get this criticism. You hear, oh, 110 mile an hour isn't fast enough. Everything's got to be 200 miles. Well, if you take a look at the European example, when Spain started coming south out of Madrid, they started out about 115 miles an hour. And they started out with about 6 or 8 trains a day. And it was so overwhelmingly successful with the ridership that from there they made incremental improvements to the point to where they're now at about 200 miles an hour with 18 to 20 trains a day. So it's part of building the culture of riding rail and building this proven pattern of success that allows you to move on to the next level.